It doesn't really make sense to do these live streams. I mean, you're not going to get the views you were hoping for. Not like this guy over here that you're going to show. But you're trying to ride the coattails of some guy that's, got umpteen thousand subscribers. Man, of course not. It's just, these things are pretty interesting. I haven't even seen this one. And I wanted to keep this shit rolling. So, what's good, y'all? And like Morpheus would say, what if I told you that you can find many Easter egg well after spring? And yeah, obviously it's kind of alluding to what this video is about to bring in regards to things that we probably missed, lost sight of, or didn't fully catch during our multiple viewings of this quadrilogy, right? Trilogy, if you will, or even just the first movie, because that's everyone's favorite, right? The classic. And yeah, honestly, arguably it could be the best out of the four. And like, so what? So be it. Does that mean you get people who have to continuously talk shit about the others? It's like, they didn't make the. It's still a better sequel and a third film to any kind of trilogy. It's a pretty legit trilogy. There's some that like, hey, y'all should have stopped at one or two at the most. Y'all did overkill already. But anyways, I'm not trying to overkill this whole Matrix analysis, but yeah, we're gonna hit more of a just scene by scene type of just framework, and what the producers were showing in the movie and all this stuff, and what the viewers for the most part missed possibly, and even if they caught it, like, did they really understand the whole meaning and purpose or intention behind that? So things to consider. And I'm just gonna throw this in the mixer. And funny thing, this guy reminds me of a battle rapper. I don't know if it's actually him or not, but his name is Definition with two F's. But yeah, like we'll see how that goes. I only skipped around. I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. It's kind of fresh for 2024. I'm surprised to see this type of video being made at this time. But obviously, yeah, like, people heard, Matrix 5 is going to drop and this and that. So, hey, ramp up that, lore again and throw in the balls for the canon, right? People talk about this, the canon behind the zeitgeist of any kind of franchise, right? But anyways, let's see what this guy's got to talk about. And it'd be interesting to see if he throws in some rhymes. If it really is this guy I'm thinking about, he looks exactly like this one guy, this one battle rapper. His name is Definition, but he's pretty funny. And yeah, without further ado, happy Catterday, yo.
Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, and in this video we're breaking down the Matrix. The sci-fi action epic's one of the best films ever made, and it was a complete phenomenon upon its release. Taking a lot of attention away from the return of Star Wars, it's ushered in a new kind of action movie for the next 10 years. Bullet time was everywhere, we all question our realities, and I even convinced my parents to buy me one of the mobiles from the movie. Didn't have Snake on it, and didn't open up with a spring, because that was actually custom built for the characters in this film. However, the movie completely took over my life. I cannot wait to go back through it, and this video will be filled with Easter eggs, hidden details, and the making of trivia that shows why this movie was the one. So answer the call, take the red pill, and come with me as we step through the looking glass. Here we'll show you the truth that there is no spoon, and I can't wait to show the people what they don't want you to see.
Don't tell me you're a believer now.
He's looking at a cross. He's looking at a cross on the wall there, talking about faith. Now, we've also just launched a new audio podcast version of our classic movie breakdown, so if you want to listen to the show, then just go to the description and click on the link there. Now, with that out of the way, thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into the Matrix. Now, Although the movie released in 1999 and was set in like 2199, The Matrix itself takes place mainly in 1998. This is shown throughout a number of things, including the line of text that we first get on screen. It shows us 1998, and Neo's file later backs this up. This is pulled out by Agent Smith, with the last update on it happening in 1998. It also has as high school as Owen Patterson High, which was named after one of the movie's production designers. Interestingly, this file is written in OCR font, which is purposely designed to be read by machines. I see you. Now what we're watching here is a tracing program. Trinity asks if the call's being tracked, but Cypher says it's clean.
Are you sure this line is clean?
Yeah, of course I'm sure.
In hindsight, he's the Judas of the group and probably talking with the agents right at the beginning. He says,
You weren't supposed to relieve me.
I know, but I felt like taking a shift.
And later the agents talk about how they have an informant when Trinity escapes. Now I feel like he was talking with the agents and wasn't expecting Trinity to take over because he was having one of his nighttime conversations. He's clearly lying about it being secured and is downplaying any suspicion that something could be up. Now Judas betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, and Cypher betrays the group and all of Zion for the life of an actor in the Matrix. Also, like, Joe Pantoliano, like, he might have legitimately done this in real life, and we might all be in the Matrix, and that's a bit of theater, but it obviously makes you question your entire reality. Now, him being a Judas ties into the Christ metaphors which are laced throughout the movie. His betrayal leads to Neo's death and eventually his resurrection, just like the disciple. Cypher didn't believe from the off, with some of his first lines believing he was going to kill him.
We're gonna kill him. You understand that?
Beyond that though, we get several different signifiers which are laced throughout the movie. When we first join Neo, we see headphones around him and the subtitles reveal what this song is. That is Dissolve Girl by Massive Attack. Interestingly, the lyrics at this point in the song are, You are not my savior, but I still don't go. Oh. Choi also says to Neo,
Hallelujah. You're my savior, man. My own personal Jesus Christ.
and there's also Keanu at the club saying,
Jesus.
Mouse says,
Jesus Christ, he's fast.
and Cypher says,
You scared the bejesus out of me.
the name Trinity also plays off the Holy Trinity, and he also dies and is then resurrected. Throughout the movie, we see as he performs miracles, and by the end, he has godlike abilities. Even his surname, Anderson, means Son of Man, and Jesus referred to himself as the Son of Man. This was to remind his disciples he was just like them, and you do get a feeling of humility from Neo. Neo is also an anagram of one, with a character representing the chosen one. What's even crazier is that in Latin, Cypher means zero. So Neo is the one, and the one who betrays him is zero, with ones and zeros being used in computer binary code. Cypher is a word associated with encrypted data, and even the name choices have deeper layers to them. Now it's from here that we travel through a zero, which is the point we begin at before we get to the one. This then takes us into the Matrix, where we start to uncover the truth. If you remember 1999, which I don't know how many of you were even born then, but if you were, then you probably remember a lot of the marketing was based around what is the Matrix. No one really knew, and this teased the idea of mystery to the movie. Nobody had any idea what was happening, but when we first seen it, we all went in blind. But what is the Matrix, and how did the Wachowskis come up with it? Well, it all started back in 1992 with a pair working on the development of a comic book. They loved Ghost in the Shell, Kung Fu movies, Alice in Wonderland, and also Eastern philosophy.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice.
The Ghost in the Shell inspirations are seen right from the off, with the title sequence of that also being green lines of code. There's also the shootout in the lobby later on, which clearly pulls directly from the anime. Placed alongside each other, you can see that it's clearly riffing off it, and this extends to several other scenes we'll talk about. On top of this, there's also clear ties to Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, and it all comes together in this great melting pot. Years later, Lily Wachowski stated that a lot of the Matrix was built around anger and breaking free of corporatized structures. It all came together, and in 1994, the Wachowskis took their script assassins into the Warner Brothers offices. This was later made with Sylvester Stallone and Antonio Banderas, with Richard Donner heading it up. Warner Brothers also purchased 2 other scripts, with these being Bound and lastly The Matrix. The pair made their directorial debut with Bound in 1996, and the neo-noir crime film was pretty well received. Asking if they could direct The Matrix, the doors opened, and the rest is history. The word Matrix means mother in Latin, and at this point, almost all humans are born to it. Humans are cocooned in artificial wombs and used for the energy to power the machines. Although the film was massive, before going into it, people were pretty unsure about it at the time. This included Will Smith, who got offered the role of Neo.
And they came in and they made a pitch for The Matrix.
And as it turns out, they're geniuses. But there's a fine line in a pitch meeting between genius and what I experienced in the meeting.
So this is the actual pitch that they made for The Matrix.
So dude, we're thinking like imagine you're in a fight and then you like jump. Imagine if you could stop jumping in the middle of the jump. Say that again.
But then people could see around you 360 while you're jumping, while you're stop jumping, right? And then we're gonna invent these cameras, and then people can see the whole jump while you stop in the middle of the jump.
So I made Wild Wild West.
Yep, so Smith went on to do Wild Wild West, but eventually Jada Pinkett Smith did go on to play Niobe in the sequels. Eventually Keanu Reeves signed on, and we had Lawrence Fishburne playing Morpheus. Originally they wanted Val Kilmer, but like you can't think of anyone else in these roles at this point. Drafting and comic book artists Jeff Darrow and Steven Scrose, they drew up 600 pages worth of storyboards. These were used to map out the entire movie, which takes us in the film itself. Firstly though, just a quick word from our sponsors, and then we'll get right into it. Now this video is sponsored by Factor. Factor takes the guesswork out of grocery shopping and meal prep, saving you time and energy for other things. Raising my kids and spending most of my theory time making videos for you guys means I haven't really and uses discount cements the idea that the code is in everything, and it's something that gets picked up on a lot more in the later sequels. We won't talk about those yet. However, what we will talk about is the sense of paranoia and deception that's set up right away. That opening phone call has Cypher lying, and the pair are also being spied on. The world in the Matrix is of course a deception, and this is overseen by machines. It's something explored in things like 1984, where there's the constant idea that Big Brother's watching you. Machines are able to monitor humanity at all times because they've set up this fake simulation. So right away, we get that feeling with the authorities shining a light on everything. This is carried on into that opening moment where we transition directly into a policeman's flashlight. Thematically, it cements the idea the authorities are always watching, and the characters have to run and hide in order to survive. Flashlights are actually used brilliantly throughout the scene, with them also appearing behind Trinity's head. However, later on, we see similar iconography coming down from the ship when Neo exits the Matrix. This enforces the idea that the machines are in control and highlights the authority figures are just pawns to them. Now, the phone number itself denotes that this is in the Chicago area, which is confirmed by a number of key things. Though the movie was filmed out in Sydney, the picture in Neo's boss's office indeed shows the Chicago skyline. There's also the train at the end which says Loop, with signs for Wells and Lake popping up throughout the film. Chicago is the Wachowskis' hometown, so it makes sense that they'd want to set the movie here. Traveling through the Zero, the insides of it appear like columns, foreshadowing the towers that the Matrix slaves are trapped in. Now we learn that they're after Trinity due to the trace leading them here. This building ends up returning at the end of the film, and it's the one that Neo runs into just before his death. Looking at the door numbers, we can see this is 303, which is the same as at the end. This is how Smith knew where Neo was going to be, because he'd already been there earlier in the movie. You can actually see the police tape next to the elevator, which is some amazing attention to detail. 303 has 3 numbers with the 2 3s representing Trinity. You know me. It's going to be lots of reaching in this video, I warn you. Either way, there's so much going on with it, and I love Hugo Weaving in this film. His delivery and cadence, it's so unique, with it being almost like a robot trying to mimic a human. Messed up that impression, but we'll move on. As the cars pull up, we can also see a sign that says Kung Fu, showcasing a big inspiration for the movie. So good, and at this point we get a moment that changed the course of action movies and games for the rest of time. That is bullet time, bullet time, bullet time. Dear me. Now the basis of this, it came along with the invention of the camera and the idea of time-lapse photography. First pioneered with the horse in motion, Edward Muybridge developed the technique. Butchered his name, and I'm not going to explain the entire history of photography to you, but the idea of this started all the way back in 1878. Muybridge placed a line of cameras in a line, and these were set up so that when the horse ran past, they trigger the shutter and capture the image. Thus a photograph of the entire motion of the horse running was created, which when projected created a motion picture. Now in terms of the thinking behind it, that's exactly what happened in order to create bullet time. However, similar shots and ways of moving the camera or perspective were shown before this. One of the earliest noticed examples happens during the intro for Speed Racer all the way back in 1966.
Go Speed Racer, go Speed Racer, go!
As he leaps out the car, we get that freeze motion before the quote-unquote camera then rotates. The Wachowskis would go on to direct a live-action Speed Racer film, and thus you can kind of draw the conclusion that they may have been influenced by this. Flash forward to the 1980s, and Tim McMillan started working on the idea of time-slice motion picture array cameras. Eventually this led to his Project Dead Horse, which in itself was a reference to Muybridge. Now where it first really got to the point it could be used and processed through high-quality cameras was back in 1996 with that Smirnoff advert in which we have a character dodging bullets. Clearly a massive influence, and the creative team also credited Akira with the action scenes, inspiring how characters moved around the environment. Now the Wachowskis adopted these techniques and used rigs to either photograph a moment at the same time, like what we get here with Trinity. This is why she hangs still in the air. However, shots later on, such as when Neo and Smith dive at each other, that was done through triggering shutters milliseconds apart. That gives the idea of the movement of the cameras, and it's probably the first thing that blew people away about this movie. Having that as one of your first big action scenes, it just instantly pulls you in. Like I said, this would go on to influence so much with Max Payne, Fear, Scary Movies, Swordfish, it's everywhere. Shrek. I still think this movie is the best it's ever been done though, and even the sequels don't quite live up to it. Now next, we get a showcase of the wirework techniques with Trinity running up the wall. Hiring martial arts film director Yen Wu Ping, he brought his expertise to the film. Training the actors for months, he developed a style based around their body types. Initially, he thought it'd be difficult because of how unfit some of them were. However, building their styles around what they were able to do means it still comes across as completely flawless in the film. Still though, it wasn't easy, and Reeves suffered spinal cord compression from a herniated disc. Unable to kick for most of the movie, he was highly restricted for 2 of the 4 months of filming. Still though, he persevered and even trained on his days off. Carrie-Anne Moss also twisted her ankle during filming, but she didn't tell anyone in case they recast her. Now Reeves is aided brilliantly by Chad Stahelski, who was his stunt double for a lot of his early career. Here they formed a lifelong friendship, and Stahelski went on to direct him in the John Wick films. Now they make it look easy at the movie, but this stuff was incredibly difficult, with even this opening scene taking 6 months of training. All in all, the movie won Best Visual Effects at the Academy Awards, with it being a big upset for The Phantom Menace. That was going to be the shoe-in, but John Gator walked away with the statue. It's well deserved as well, and after Trinity smashes the police like the like button, she then takes a call. Looking to the laptop, we can see the screen shows images of Neo, highlighting what's to come. There's a brief flash of his file as well, which we later see Smith pulling out. As the agent steps out the elevator, we get some foreshadowing of the end. This corridor will of course return again, but whereas Trinity runs away from the agents, Neo runs towards them. Sprinting across rooftops, we see a sign with a Desert Eagle on it, which is the weapon that all the agents use. Subtly, it enforces the idea of danger as we see smoke coming out the barrel. Desert Eagles were chosen as their weapon because the recoil is difficult for most people to control, even when holding one with both hands. The agents always fire these guns with just one, subtly showing how powerful they are. Now, these rooftops are actually repurposed from the movie Dark City, with these being the same ones that John Murdoch runs across. Both films share similar subject matter, which I won't spoil, but yeah, it's great to see them in this if you think the world is fake. Trinity's clothing was also meant to resemble Mercury, with it creating an almost metallic feel. You can definitely see the Ghost in the Shell influences, and it feels like a live-action recreation of those anime. I think this entire scene is masterfully put together because we've seen how easily Trinity can beat the crap out of people. The fact she's now sprinting for her life, it just helps to tease how dangerous the agents are. I love where she rolls down the stairs and just freezes at the bottom like a deer stuck in headlights. The fear and trembling, it just lets us know how scary they are, and we see her finally get to the phone booth. We then have the mystery of where it is she went to, why that truck suddenly turned around to try and ram her, and again it instantly just hooks you in. A movie like this could easily just start off with a massive exposition dump, but instead we learn along with Neo.
We'll need a search running.
Going into the phone, we then pull out on his computer to see the word searching because they're searching for the one. The computer then tells him to wake up. This sums up the first act of the movie, which is about him waking up from this fake world. Neo being asleep is such a strong way to start it, and this is something that the Wachowskis repeated. In the 2 immediate sequels that followed, Neo starts off every movie waking up. On his computer, we see our first image of Morpheus and also learn he's been labeled as a terrorist. As we know though, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. The Arabic text here was also grabbed from a real-life newspaper, with it being about negotiations between Lebanese Christians and President al-Assad. We also learn Morpheus avoided authorities at Heathrow, with people obviously assuming he escaped on a plane. However, the most likely thing is that it was through the phone lines, and it also highlights he's a worldwide threat. The name Morpheus also comes from Greek mythology, where it belonged to the god of dreams. It was later adapted into Neil Gaiman's Sandman comic, and his mission in life is to wake people up. Now, one thing you might wonder is why everyone goes by their code names even when they're in the real world. This is because they view their real names like Thomas as their slave names, and thus they have their chosen ones to show who they really are. Neo then gets a knock that synchronizes with the messages on screen, and we look at his front door. He lives in room 101, which too comes from 1984. This is a prison chamber within the Ministry of Love that was used to break people down. It then got adapted into a comedy show, and I used to love Room 101, I miss it. Now 101 of course signifies he's the one, and it also reflects the Room 303 that Trinity appeared in. You might also notice that all of Neo's clothes, like his suit, are slightly ill-fitting, and this was done on purpose by the production team. They wanted to show that he didn't really fit in, whereas the clothes he chooses later on all match his size perfectly. Learning that Neo is a hacker, he's the perfect person to possess a free mind because hackers don't play by the rules. They break into systems and move about cyberspace without sticking to the rules, with this being a characteristic that most of the freed people share. It also plays upon the idea of duality, as we later learn that he works in the corporate world. So we have someone with two sides to them, a man who's part of the system but also going against it.
It seems that you've been living two lives.
Neo then pulls the discs out of a book called Simulacra and Simulation. Written by Jean Baudelaire, this was given to all the actors to help them understand what the Matrix was. The work questions reality and whether we're in a simulation, and what that means for life itself if we are. Does one's life serve no meaning if it's all fake, or do we still have purpose even if the world around us isn't real? Philosophically, it also tackles several things that this movie does as well. The work asks whether capitalism has turned everything into a simulation of what it used to be. Nostalgia and member berries are a big thing now, with copies and simulations being prevalent throughout a lot of work. It discusses whether we're so used to copies that we don't even truly know what a real thing feels like. For example, we've all seen photos of the Mona Lisa, but not many encounter it in real life. I went on a art trip to see it when I was a kid, and yeah, it's totally different seeing it up on a wall in front of you over looking at it on a screen. However, that's how most will experience it, and thus we tend to see the simulation more than the real thing. Also, just being on a trip to Ibiza, which is why I look very orange, I look like an orange piece of shit. We did try and turn the saturation down, but if I still look orange, you know why. Too tan for me own bloody good. Now the book also has the Desert of the Real, which is where Morpheus takes Neo later on.
Welcome to the desert of the real.
Adding a deeper layer to this, the inside of the book's been hollowed out and filled with computer programs. This sums up the Matrix and how, though it appears to be real on the surface, it's actually full of programs on the inside. We can see the page on the left is about nihilism, pointing to Neo's thoughts about life at this moment. The work is also inspired by The White Room and the book Neuromancer, with the term Matrix appearing in both. Choi says,
Hey, look, it just sounds to me like, you need to unplug, man.
which foreshadows something coming down the line. And we also see that the people with him are one that wears sunglasses and the other has a nose chain. The guy kind of reminds me of what people wear when they want to be in this part of the Matrix, and the chains around the mouth and nose, they're almost like what people stuck in the Matrix look like when they're in the real world. Upon giving the disc over, Neo says,
You ever have that feeling where you're not sure if you're awake or still dreaming?
All the time.
Now this builds up the philosophies of Descartes, who famously said, I think therefore I am. One day he was chilling, pondering his existence, and he started to wonder if he was stuck in a dream. Descartes had just woken up and he wondered if he was really awake or still stuck in his mind.
Have you ever had a dream, Neo, that you were so sure was real? What if you were unable to wake from that dream?
Descartes knew his senses could be tricked, and that normally he wasn't aware he was in a dream when he was in the middle of one. Hit with the horror his entire life might be a dream, he then carried out a thought experiment, realizing that because he was thinking, it meant he had to be alive someplace somewhere. Thus I think, therefore I am, shows that we at least know we exist if we have thoughts. Told to follow the White Rabbit, he sees this on a tattoo, and even back on the 1999 DVD release, there was a little featurette you got if you selected that in the menu. That was the first DVD I ever bought, and even back then, it cost £20 in HMV. If only there was a way I could save money. Well, guess what? Our partners at Arrow Video sell tons of 4K Blu-rays on loads of classics, and if you use the code HEAVYSpoilers at checkout, you get 10% off. Just click my link in the description, HEAVYSpoilers at checkout, 10% off. Anyway, the White Rabbit of course pulls from Alice in Wonderland, which is about a surreal trip through a strange reality. The way the Nebuchadnezzar moves through the tunnels could also be viewed as travelling down the rabbit hole. Rabbits appear later on in the movie at the oracles when we catch them on a TV in the background. Interestingly, this moment has nods to lots of other things in the movie. That TV is the one from the White Void, and we also catch a girl levitating blocks. The top one starts to spin towards us, and we can see there's a helicopter on it. This foreshadows the rescue later on, with this shot being a collage of several things from the film. Levitating like the bullets as well, but moving on. Now, though the idea of Alice in Wonderland is something that most of the main characters reference, Cypher gives a nod to something different.
It means buckle your seatbelt, Dorothy, because Kansas is going bye-bye.
That is, of course, a reference to The Wizard of Oz. Now, this is very important.
Why?
Well, whereas Alice is about going into another world and finding freedom there, Oz is about a girl wishing to return home. Dorothy is dropped into Oz, accidentally becomes a killer, is hunted, and in the end, all she wants to do is return to her comfortable home. This, to me, shows Cypher's true motives. He was probably curious about the real world, but upon reaching it, he's realized he hates it. Cypher now likely has to kill while he's being hunted, and all he wants to do is go back to the program. Now, I've always kind of wondered what it would have been like if Cypher's plan had worked. However, I think The Wizard of Oz ending kind of shows it. He'd wake up with memories of the world like Dorothy, but probably consider them an odd dream. Over time, I'm guessing he'd forget them and then settle into his new life as Joe Pantoliano. That theory's right, I'm telling you. Now, going to a club, Neo ends up meeting Trinity for the first time. This is the scene that was used to audition Carrie-Anne Moss, and it's a real S&M club in Sydney. The patrons were apparently told to bring their own gear, hence the looks in these moments. Bit of Rob Zombie there as well, and interestingly, this was also the first soundtrack I ever bought. It was purely for that Rob D Club to Death classic. It's a banger! Now here we meet Trinity, who for me is one of the standout parts of the movie, with her being such an iconic character. Carrie said that she actually wouldn't be able to go out wearing sunglasses because if she did, she was instantly recognised. Now, you might be wondering why the agents don't just take over Neo at this very moment and start blasting away. Well, the Animatrix explains that people close to the truth aren't able to be taken over. Because their minds aren't enslaved to the system, they can't be grabbed as easily as regular people. Now in this moment, we also learn that Trinity hacked the IRS D-base. The expanded lore never really says what this is, but Trinity does say it happened a long time ago. My guess is that this was before she was unplugged from the Matrix, and it's a hint that she had a life before it. The IRS is of course a big part of the establishment, and it highlights that she wanted to take down corporate structures like Neo. Hacking the IRS is a massive thing too, and it likely drew enough attention to get the attention of Morpheus. And we learn that she too slept at her computer looking for him and also wanted answers. Neo ends up sleeping in, and we get another scene of him waking up with there also being a focus on the green numbers and the alarm clock. Berated by his boss, this actor was clearly picked due to his resemblance to Agent Smith. When I was a kid, you get confused over this stuff, and I even thought this guy might be an agent due to his look and clothing. Also, just the way he says,
"You have a problem with authority, Mr. Anderson."
It's very akin to Smith saying, Mr. Anderson. Can't do that impression, I was gonna stop doing it. Although that's not the case, he clearly lines with them due to his character representing the system. He's a corporate head who wants to keep Neo in place, much in the same way that the rest of the machines do. Now, the company Neo works at is called MetaCortex, with this being a combination of two words. The first of these is meta, which these days people associate with breaking the fourth wall. However, its true origins come from going beyond something and transcending the trappings of it. The word cortex is linked to the brain, and thus metacortex means breaking free of the trappings of your mind. The lines here all pretty much set up the choices that he has, and in hindsight, this scene is perfectly written.
You have a problem with authority, Mr. Anderson. You believe that you are special, that somehow the rules do not apply to you. The time has come to make a choice, Mr. Anderson. Either you choose to be at your desk on time from this day forth, or you choose to find yourself another job.
Now though Neo says he wants to stay there, he wistfully looks out the window, which represents freedom. Neo will later fly at the end of the movie, and this little glance shows what he longs for. In between it is the glass with the droplets running down like the code. So we have him stuck in this box, the code, and then freedom on the outside. These window cleaners also set up the initial escape plan for Neo. If you've played the Path of Neo game, then you'll know they did something with this, and you were able to ride to the roof and then ride out the building. Neo's boss is also called Reinhardt.
Yes, Mr. Reinhardt, perfectly clear.
Which, according to IMDb trivia, could be a reference to Luke Reinhardt, the author of The Dice Man. That book is all about choices, with his boss also presenting his choice here. This idea of Neo being in a box is reflected in the next scene when we catch him in his cubicle. It's Morpheus who pulls him out of it while he's hunted by agents, which thematically sums up the first act. Computer's not even on though, mate. So you're definitely not keeping this job if you're showing up late and your computer's not even on. Now Neo's given a FedEx package that he has to sign for, and you might notice that the pen allows him to choose the ink colour. The way it's held shows blue and red levers, foreshadowing the choice of the blue and red pills. The FedEx logo is also blue and red as well, which we get focus on in the very next shot. It's definitely not a reach that pen is red and blue for a reason. Either way, that sense of paranoia, it's further enforced when the phone rings the instant he takes it out. He's always being watched, and whether it's Morpheus or the Matrix, there's definitely that feeling of 1984. Like the book, not everyone just dancing around in nightclubs looking like Scarface. Now as Neo crouches and moves about the booth, we can also see he has yellow cloth lining the inside of his suit. This is something the agents also possess, and it subtly highlights that he's part of this system. And Morpheus then gives Neo the choice of whether he wants to get arrested or take the quote-unquote leap of faith and go to the roof. He refuses to do this though, and he gets taken in. Now at this point we see Trinity watching him getting taken away through the mirror on her motorbike. Mirrors appear throughout the movie, with Morpheus of course having mirrored sunglasses. Neo travels through a mirror to get into the real world, and we also see a mirror door handle right at the oracles. On top of this we have the spoon itself, which creates its own mirror. We also have several cuts in this moment with a woman in a red coat appearing throughout most of them. I kinda think this hints towards a lady in the red dress later on, with a bit of visual foreshadowing. Jumping to Neo in an interrogation room, we start off staring at him through monitors. We know from the second film that this is the architect, and it further enforces the idea of Big Brother watching. Now, originally, they were going to have the reveal that Neo's actually just the one of many ones, with the architect appearing in earlier drafts. However, they ended up going with more of a sincere ending. Still though, this moment could be a leftover scene from an early version, and either way, it works well as part of the trilogy. Sorry, quadrilogy now. Now this would explain why the agents didn't immediately kill him, as if they've been through this before, then they know the one's not that important. What is important though is tracking down Morpheus, which comes with the bug. However, Neo does get a choice. Just like Morpheus gives him one, Smith says he'll wipe the slate clean as long as Neo helps. He gives the finger instead of the thumbs up like you should, and we then get some surreal body horror instead of him getting his phone call. Neo's mouth ends up closing up, and according to IMDb trivia, this is a reference to Harlan Ellison's "I have no mouth and I must scream." Accomplished using CGI and practical effects, the site says his lips were joined together with CGI before they then switched to plaster and prosthetics. The bug is planted into his belly button, and the design of it of course foreshadows the look of the Sentinels. Neo once more wakes up, but this time it seems like a nightmare. Whereas he's peacefully came to in the past, he now sees the horror of the Matrix and exactly what he's trapped in. Getting the phone call, which yeah, nice way to build off the last scene, Morpheus says,
"You see, you may have spent the last few years looking for me, but I've spent my entire life looking for you."
Now obviously he's not spent his entire life if we're looking at it literally. Guy was obviously a kid at some point, but I take the meaning here that he means his entire life as being from the moment he was freed. Picked up under a bridge, we too get rain falling from the overpass, creating the idea of the code. Now in the car, he's once more given a choice as he's held at gunpoint by Switch. Switch was originally going to be a man in the real world and a woman in the Matrix, hence the name Switch. However, the Wachowskis felt like this was a bit too progressive for the studio to accept. Years later, both would transition, and because of this, many people have chalked up Switch as being a representation of this in their subconscious. APOC is here as well, with his name being short for Apocalypse, aka the end of the world. In the expanded lore, we know that APOC wrote something known as the Four Horsemen virus, which brought famine, pestilence, war, and death. He gives Neo his first gun after the visit to the Oracle, and this ushers in the journey to the ending of the world / Matrix. Now the reason Switch is pointing a gun at Neo throughout is because he has the potential to become an agent. She says,
"Listen to me, Copper Top."
Which is a jibe about how Neo's a battery. Duracells especially have orange tops, and as we later learn, all those in the Matrix are used as batteries to power the machines. Taking the bug out his belly, this too was a combination of practical and CGI effects. The stomach itself was a prosthetic, including the snail trail with the bug being digital. It basically built this bug suction thing, apparently, and Frankensteined it together from parts that came from a factory. Pulling up at the hotel, we see the rain running down once more, and Trinity introduces us to Morpheus. Now this is how you shoot an entrance, and I love the way the lightning crackles in the background. Though it's a bit melodramatic, it really adds some atmosphere to their introduction. Morpheus then brings up how Neo's likely felt like something's up with the world. I think it's something that a lot of people can relate to, and the idea of not fitting in, it's pretty universal. It's something that grabs you, and then the twist it's a simulation, it capitalizes off it to just blow your mind. Morpheus says,
"It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage. Born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch."
Now the movie has been likened to Plato's allegory of the cave, which too is about reality and perception. It described a situation in which people from birth were chained up in a cave facing a blank wall. If there was a fire behind them that projected shadows onto the wall, then they would start to give them names and think this was reality. However, it's not the real world, and it questions the effects of education and knowledge in how it helps us shape things. It can be applied to all systems of belief which are formed without evidence, and shows how humanity will often try and create an explanation for something if they don't know the true answer. In the allegory, the prisoners are eventually freed, and their eyes hurt from seeing the sun for the first time. This is why Neo's eyes hurt later on in the movie, as he's seeing the true world for the first time. Plato also theorized that some people will have found comfort and stability in the cave, and that they'd want to return it. Highlighted in Cypher, he sees ignorance as bliss.
Ignorance is bliss.
Now the ignorance of remaining in the Matrix is offered to Neo in the form of two pills. I love how we have them reflected in Morpheus's glasses, and just Neo's hand hovering above one is such an iconic shot. Now it's possible that this is a reference to Total Recall without questioning reality as well. Quaid there is also offered a red pill, which in that movie is said to return him to reality. We're then meant to question the reality here too, as we can see that Neo's hand's lowered in one of the lenses, whereas it's raised in the other. The raised hand highlights the reality exists with the red, whereas the illusion is locked in with the blue. It turns out this pill is actually a tracer that will allow them to track where his pod is so they can rescue him when he's unplugged. Morpheus says time is against them, and in reality he's coming close to waking up. Guy's gonna get flushed. Touching the mirror, this then alters reality around him, and it's all building off the back of Alice going through the looking glass. The mirror is broken, but it then fixes itself, with Neo's reflection being repaired because of it. The fractured person he once was is now gone, with there being nothing but clarity. We then see tunnels on the screen once more, calling back at that idea of rabbit holes. Waking up in the real world, we see the horror of the Matrix with the towers and towers of people encased in pods. There's a real feeling of death to it, with the black soulless columns being devoid of life. Feels very Hellraiser-y, with this being some true body horror. Neo's pod has likely had generations of people living and dying in it, with them all being leached off of their electricity. This is something Keanu wanted to showcase in his appearance, with him losing 15 pounds and shaving his entire body for his real world awakening. Now I did buy this bald cap thinking that this would look great for the video, however, like I said, being away, got far too tanned, and now I've ruined it. I've ruined the part of the video! Now this pod itself also reflects a red pill, and when he looks out at the towers, it appears like several of them lining the structures. Grabbed around his head, this too is a nod to Ghost in the Shell. Unplugged and flushed down a pipe into the sewage, it shows what the machines view humans as. He once more goes down the rabbit hole, and this was actually the final thing they shot for the movie. Picked up by the Nebuchadnezzar, we get an almost Christ-like pose as he's pulled up into the ship. The name of the vessel is a biblical reference, with it being based off King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. The second of his name, he came from the book Daniel and built the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. He also had a dream that he couldn't interpret, but he desperately searched for the answers to it. This reflects Neo in the Matrix, who is trying to escape the dream and find the answer. According to IMDb trivia, the ship was designed to look like it was patched together, as opposed to like the clean and sterile interiors that you'd get in something like Star Trek. The creative team looked at 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, with comic book artist Jeff Darrow creating its final design. It was all supposed to look handmade, hence why you have wires and stuff hanging out. We see that the ship was made in the USA with the year 2069, instantly letting us know the 1999 reality is a lie. It also says Mark III number 11. This is obviously the third version of the ship, but those awake on Reddit pointing out it could be a nod to a Bible verse. That is Mark III 11, which has the line, "You are the Son of God." Acupuncture is used on Neo, with the ones on his chest being fake. However, the needles in his ears are real, and they were inserted by a qualified specialist. We don't know how long Neo is being rebuilt for, but we see his hair's grown quite a bit when we get to the next shot. After waking up again, Neo meets the rest of the crew, including Mouse, Tank and Dozer. Neo is then jacked into the White Void, known as the Construct. Nice bit of trivia here, with this being based around the work of Stanley Kubrick's 2001. The White Room with simple furnishing was meant to represent the one at the end of the movie in that fake reality. However, I also think the standalone TV is a nod to his film The Shining. There aren't any wires or cables in it, which is akin to the one Danny watches at the Overlook. When we first pan over to Morpheus, you might also notice his sunglasses are completely black. For this, they swapped out the mirrored ones, and this was so they wouldn't have to remove the camera crew digitally, because it would just basically create a VFX shot that they then have to work on. Now the scene is also absent from the green of the Matrix and the blue tint of the real world. It highlights that this is something in between, with it being a simulation the humans control. Neo touches the chair and asks if it's real, which truly questions what reality is. If we perceive and interact with something, then surely it is. However, we can interact and move things in a computer game, but whether it's real or not is something you can debate. You might also notice that Morpheus' tie is green, with this resembling the code from the Matrix. Morpheus then goes through the history of the Matrix, with this being further expanded on in the Animatrix. We see a destroyed skyline, with this being modelled off New York City. We can see the Twin Towers there, with Neo's passport also ironically expiring on September 11th, 2001. This would of course become a day no one will forget just 2 years later, after The Matrix was released. Now there we see exactly what started the war, and we'll touch upon this in our Matrix Reloaded breakdown. Coming soon! Make sure you subscribe to the channel, give yourself to me, betray your friends, Cypher, join the system! Now Morpheus talks about the hubris of humanity and how we marveled at the creation of AI. It's extremely relevant now, and something that we're kinda sleepwalking into. There's a lot of fear over AI art, how it can write entire scripts in an instant, and yeah, it feels more relevant now than it did even back then. In trying to play God, we ended up destroying ourselves. And we learned that we blacked out the skies, and this was just to stop the machines from using solar energy. Don't know whose plan that was, probably Boris Johnson's, but yeah, it shows how short-sighted we were. It's the same thing with our creation of AI, and we did it without thinking of the consequences. It's a bold strategy, let's see if it pays off for him. Now this initially is too much for Neo to comprehend, and after vomiting he wakes up once more. Morpheus tells him the story of the One and how there was a version that freed the very first of them. This clearly shows there have been other ones, and again it plays into the idea of what the original ending was. The Oracle then prophesied his return, and we know the prophecy was designed for a specific reason. The latter movies explain it was dreamt up in order to identify the anomaly easier. As with most codes, eventually viruses and cracks start to appear, so you need to either update or rewrite it. Having this prophecy means the One will be found, with those doing their job for them. So basically, Morpheus is a beta tester. And the next day, Tank comes in and he talks about how he and his brother were born in the Matrix, hence why they don't have any plugs. We hear about the last human city of Zion, which is shown to us in the sequels. Smith is desperate to get the codes for this, and this is why he later keeps Morpheus alive instead of just killing him. Zion refers to Mount Zion, and it's one of the 70 names that have been given to Jerusalem. Zion was destroyed by God, and the people of the city were then taken by King Nebuchadnezzar to Babylon. He jacks Neo in, and they start uploading skills and programs directly to his brain. We see that he can do this all day, and it shows how Neo's slightly more advanced than most humans in that he's able to push a little further. On screen we get several martial arts styles, including drunken boxing. This is a nod to Drunken Master, which was directed by Yen Wu Ping. He's of course the choreographer we mentioned before, and other styles include Kung Fu, Taekwondo, Kempo, and also Jiu-Jitsu. Tank also says,
"Hey Mikey, I think he likes it."
Now this is a reference to the Life cereal commercial.
He likes it! Hey Mikey!
Now you do kind of wonder how Tank's aware of this, as he is a trueborn. However, it shows how marketing and catchphrases enter the lexicon, and eventually they become staples of conversation. For example, I didn't see Casablanca until I was in my 20s, but I obviously knew the catchphrase, "Here's looking at you, kid." Terrible impression there, but yeah, you can start to see how people would pick up on stuff like this.
You think that's air you're breathing now?
Taken to the dojo, I love how Morpheus makes Neo further question his reality throughout the fight. His questioning of things around him is what further frees his mind, and it allows him to defy gravity and move even faster. There's lots of little nods to kung fu films, including Keanu's nose rub. Directly referencing Bruce Lee, this was improvised and added on the day by Reeves. Ironically, Brandon Lee was who the Wachowskis initially had in mind for Neo, but unfortunately actor died during the production of The Crow. Now, this dojo scene had numerous changes over the days of shooting. Both actors earned a lot of bruises, and it really took a toll on them. However, Yen altered things after a couple of days of filming to have the actors instead pulling their punches. This would give it more of a training feeling and also mean they weren't beating the shit out of each other. Like for days on end, just smashing each other in the face. Now what's a brilliant overhead shot, we see the pair going at each other and get imagery that looks like a yin and yang symbol. Neo gets knocked back against the wall and he later on does a stance that involves him moving his arms in preparation. This is later echoed in the fight with Smith, where he gets back up and prepares himself in a torn from Hapkido. I also love how Mouse goes to get the others as well, because it's like Batman v Superman to him. Also, forgot to mention, it's bloody Damo from Home and Away. Now there's a really subtle cut at 5107 as well, where Neo gets knocked down to the ground. We get a couple of seconds of Cypher grinning at Trinity because he's relishing the fact that the one is failing. This is further built upon in the next scene, where he's the one who says everyone fails the first time. He sees Neo as just a regular guy and not someone worth getting killed for. However, Neo seems to want to restrict himself and he refuses to strike Morpheus at full force. If he did, this would show his full abilities, but he's holding himself back because of the rules he's created for himself. These self-imposed restrictions manifest further in the next scene when Neo fails to make that first jump. According to IMDb trivia, this was based on Wile E. Coyote and all the cartoons in which he'd fall off a cliff. Now though there's a failure here, a lesson's learned from it because the characters see two things. They see that if they truly believe something, then they can do it, and also what happens if they get hurt in the program. So even though everyone fails the first time, they still keep this program as part of the itinerary because of what you learn from it. Neo once more is shown being asleep, and this symbolically highlights this idea of failure. He's then taken to the Sentinel program, in which we meet the woman in red and then the agents. We later learn this program was created by Mouse, and you can catch a lot of copy and pasting. In the wide shot, we see several duplicates showing that Mouse just copied the NPCs quickly. In real life, they used a lot of twins for this scene, where there being two sailors and also several nuns. Morpheus confidently strides through the crowd, whereas with Neo, they shoulder barge into him. This shows he's not fully confident in going through the Matrix, whereas Morpheus is. Distracted by the woman in the red dress, Neo ends up looking again to see a gun pointed in his face. The woman in the red dress is now completely gone, and it highlights that agents can turn into anyone. Morpheus tells him that sooner or later someone's gonna have to fight them, and in his glasses, we of course have it highlighted as being Neo. Called back to the ship, we then see the threat outside in the real world. These two scenes beautifully coupled together to highlight that they're not safe anywhere. It also sets up the EMP, and yeah, just a great scene to introduce what comes at the end. Also, Lawrence Fishburne gets to wear a little beret. Nice little beret. These are often worn by the military, and it highlights their fighting a war, and it's just extremely tense in these moments. Now that night, Neo goes to Cypher looking over the code. In the top left screen, you can catch blueprints to a building, and later on we see Tank flicking through this in the build up to the lobby. So Cypher was looking at these plans, showing that he was in contact with the agents. He closes the monitors down, and it's like his parents just walked in and caught him watching some lady in red. He says,
"All I see is blonde, brunette, redhead."
Which is some amazing foreshadowing. This is because when we cut to the restaurant, we can see women with these hair colours sitting around him and Smith. So this is him here setting up the meeting location, which he then goes to in the next scene. Now there was originally going to be a line where he'd tell Neo that Morpheus had actually recruited several ones in the past, but that they all died fighting the agents. This got cut from the movie, but I think it still explains so much about his character.
Why, oh why didn't I take the blue pill?
Just those snarky looks, the lack of faith in Neo, it all makes sense knowing that line was in the script. It might even be why he says,
"We're gonna kill him. You understand that?"
Now he's probably gotten to know these people and has seen it fail time and time again. We learn in the restaurant he's been there for 9 years, so almost a full decade of his life. Maybe he fell in love, maybe he liked and subscribed to another, but all of that, it's been taken away. Going through the recruitment and deaths that would ultimately make you doubt it, so he's hit a point where he just wants to go back. He's the complete opposite to Morpheus, who believes that one day Neo will fight and beat the agents.
Little piece of advice. You see an agent, you do what we do. Run. You run your ass off.
He's telling him not to bother standing there fighting because it's gonna lead to his death. It actually shows he's probably looking out for Neo and might not wish death on a dude who's been pulled into a cult. Now, I believe that Cypher believed in the prophecy at some point, and he also clearly wanted to be free too. However, it's taken a toll, and the guy just wants to go back to playing with his Tamagotchi in the 90s and watching X-Men 97. Like, actually X-Men in 97. Now, at the restaurant, we learn that Cypher's real name's Mr. Reagan.
Whatever you want, Mr. Reagan.
So, that Joe theory, mate, that's wrong, mate. However, I think the name Reagan has another layer to it. Now, most theories are that this is after Ronald Reagan, who started his career as an actor. He then became president, so the idea of importance could be seen here. However, I dug a little deeper and found something that's a bit of a little known fact. Reagan was actually an FBI informant, and he testified on the Un-American Activities Committee. This was against his fellow creatives in Hollywood, so they could be tapping into that idea of betrayal. Smith refers to both Cypher and Neo by their Matrix names, and it also shows the lack of respect he has for them as people. Now, this scene perfectly makes you wonder what you'd rather do. You could live in a world of splendor and luxury, or be out in the real world, which it's a bit of a nightmare. If reality is what your senses tell you, then you can see why some people wouldn't care and would rather live an easy life than one filled with despair. The Wachowskis even said in an interview if they were offered the choice, they would have taken the blue pill. That's why I think Cypher's such a good villain. Like, we don't really like him, but the older I get, I'm like, Cypher was right. Anyway, let me know what you would do below. Write red or blue, and I'll know exactly what you mean. Now, one of the creepiest details I noticed when going through the 4K Blu-ray is that you can see the agents reflected in the glass. Just over the table, you can see the pair standing there watching. It gives the idea that those in the program are never truly free. Cypher loves it though, and I do actually trust the machines would have kept their word. They're all about ones and zeros and wouldn't lie in the same way that a human would. Also, it's not exactly difficult for them to turn on the infinite money glitch, so they could easily give Cypher what he wants. But would he be happy? Probably not. Now, next we cut to the tasty wheat scene. One really cool detail here is the fact that when we see the bowl of slop getting put down, we can see that the spoon's being bent. Mouse also offers Neo a night with the lady in red. But he's basically like a digital pimp. Now, Neo is taken to the Oracle, and though we don't find out what Trinity was told just yet, we find out later on.
The Oracle told me that I would fall in love and that that man that I loved would be the one.
Now, the Oracle is basically a prediction program that can prophesize what's to come, with her name being based on the oracles of old. I always used to wonder how it was she did this, and for this breakdown, I tried to really get behind the thinking of what the Oracle is. In 1999, I didn't really understand it, but now we're aware we live in a world of algorithms. These are built to predict our behaviors, and I believe that the Oracle works similar. She's also been through this several times before, with us learning that she was one of the first. Thus, she's seen what happens with the One over and over, and is aware of the path he has to walk. However, there's definitely the idea that being told he could be the One is what makes him become it. You have to wonder if Morpheus would even be so fixated on finding the One if he hadn't been told by the Oracle that that's what was going to happen. Now, upon entering the building, we see a blind man, which is perhaps a nod to the fact that in the legends, the oracles were blind. He gives a little nod. A nod? Wait, I thought he was blind. Now, what this could be is showing that he has sight even though he's blind. This is something that really gets touched upon in that third movie. However, it could also show that appearances are deceptive, and perhaps he's a god who's been stationed as a lookout. The appearance of the Oracle also isn't what it seems to be, and yeah, it's a nice way to set up what's about to happen in the scene. Going up in the elevator, we also see the name Kim scratched behind Neo. Shoutouts to Green Creature on Reddit for pointing out that this is a nod to production designer Kim Barrett. Now, Morpheus goes to grab the door handle, and if you pause the movie, you can see the camera to the left. They even created a fake coat and a tie, so it looks like Morpheus's clothes just continue past it. Neo then meets the other potential ones, highlighting the fact that many people can possess his characteristics. This again shows he's not special and ties into that original twist at the end. This is further alluded to in the spoons that we see on the floor. There's 5 already bent, with him bending the 6th, which was meant to reference how he was the 6th one. Also love how as they walk in as well at the hour 11 mark, you can see spoons hanging up on the wall. Probably goes through a lot, mate. Now I might be reaching, bit of a warning there, but this spoon bending could be a nod to Uri Geller, who used to perform this trick and try and prove he had psychic powers. Going into this kitchen, we see the Oracle wearing green and orange, making her kind of blend in with the background. This kitchen itself is part of the Matrix, and that highlights to me that she's part of it too. Orange and green also has ties to R, with Michelangelo's Delphic Sibyl wearing it as well. She was an Oracle figure that predicted the coming of Jesus, so you can see how this all ties together. Now the sign above the doorway translates to Know Thyself. This is inscribed at the Oracle Temple of Delphi in Greece. She says, no one can tell you you're the one, you just know, and thus it ties into this idea of knowing thyself.
You know what that means? It's Latin. Means know thyself.
Now, I love rewatching this conversation with the Oracle, and the knowledge that everything she's telling him further pushes him on the path to be the one. In telling him he's not special and that he has to save Morpheus, it inevitably sends him down that route. It's sort of like how he knocks over the vase, which only happened because she told him not to worry about it. It asks whether he actually ever had free will, or if this was all part of some big grand plan. She says, knowing you're the one is like being in love, you just know it. Obviously, he falls in love on his path to become the one, and yeah, nice little tie together. Now you can also see City Phone on the boxes on top of the fridge. These popped up in Neo's cubicle at work, and it might highlight that she is part of the system. She says,
you got the gift, but it looks like you're waiting for something. Your next life, maybe. Who knows? That's the way these things go.
Which highlights that Neo will have to die first before he can become the one. In the background, we can also hear the song and beginning to see the light, and it's from this point that things start to change. Now, the Oracle also gives Neo a cookie. Cookies are used in programming terms, with your browser storing cookies from the website you visit. I know you've been looking at Screen Crush, mate. You betcha, you naughty boy. Now, she delivers the devastating news that Morpheus believes Neo's the one so much he'll sacrifice himself for his life.
One of you is going to die.
Going back to the hotel, this is actually the same building that they unplugged Neo at. As they pull up, we can also see the license plate says AA034. In medical terms, this stands for Alert, Awake and Orientated, which are excellent Easter egg, guys. At this point, we get the Deja Vu cat, which showcases a glitch in the Matrix. This shows there's no real animals plugged into the program, with glitching birds also being present in the Animatrix. Black cats are of course seen as being unlucky, and this could explain why this superstition's built around them. If they're changing the Matrix, then something bad's probably about to happen, and the cat being a signifier of this could be showing the coming event. All exits and entrances are sealed off, even the window in the bathroom, which is now completely bricked up. Instantly, the group go into high alert, with Morpheus asking for Cypher's phone. Cypher fumbles about in his pocket because, as we know, he dropped it before they went to see the Oracle. Trinity hands him hers, and from here, it all kicks off. Mouse ends up being cornered by a SWAT team, and he ends up firing wildly with 2 automatic shotguns. These were built specifically for the movie, with them operating 25-round drum magazines. Cutting to Mouse, it's so heartbreaking seeing him reacting to the shots. I can't imagine what it would be like being an operator watching your mate die beside you and there's nothing you can do about it. Going into the walls, we see pipes surrounding them, similar to how they have to hide in the sewer tunnels of the real world. Cypher is the one who sneezes and gets them caught, which might have even been on purpose. From here we then see a SWAT team member turn into Smith, and I love how you can see the code moving down his face as the program begins to alter him. Morpheus ends up throwing himself at him to buy the other's time, and they descend the building much like the falling of the code. Morpheus ends up going toe-to-toe with Smith, and we see how powerful the agents really are. We've already seen how tough Morpheus is in the dojo, but he completely beats him with ease. Now originally there was going to be a moment where we'd see the group fleeing through the sewers being chased by the SWAT team. This was storyboarded, and it was eventually used as a level in the path of Neo. They kind of allude to it with Trinity crawling out the sewers, and we see sees Cypher at the scene of a crash. The blanks here were gonna get filled in, but maybe the budget just got too much. Either way, I love how Tank just answers as the operator in case somehow someone from the Matrix reaches him. That could be a regular Joe who potentially gets them discovered, so he's got to keep things professional. Back in the real world, Cypher ends up killing most of the crew, and not like these, not like these, not like these.
Not like this.
Said that probably a million times in my life. Now, Cypher obviously has Morpheus at his mercy, but he can't kill him due to the deal with Smith. Cypher hates Morpheus the most, I think, because he hasn't really got the freedom he sold him. Instead, he's a soldier who has to follow Morpheus's orders, so the choice has further been taken away. Anyway, we get further proof that Neo's the one, as Cypher says,
I mean, how can he be the one if he's dead?
the miracle of Tank surviving and coming back is also what saves him. This is subtly set up as Cypher drops the gun next to his unconscious body. Cutting to the building, we then get an incredible monologue by Weaving where he describes the Matrix. Here he talks about the previous versions, including a perfect world where no one suffered and everyone was happy. Now, I'll always remember there was a Twilight Zone episode titled A Nice Place to Visit. This had a robber being killed on one of his heists, and he woke up to find himself in heaven. Anything he wanted, like more subscribers, he got it instantly. He could have any woman he wanted, always won at roulette, and basically had it made. However, the twist was that this led to him hating his life, and he realized he'd gone to hell. That's kind of what I think with this Matrix, with it being built into us that we get bored if it's easy. We need bad and good to define reality for us, and without those defining factors, we can't have the dynamics that make life interesting. Now, this also highlights that there are other versions of the Matrix, and that the one might not necessarily be the one. Just the idea of it being a perfect world, it also kind of goes into how humanity, we just want to hate our lives. Now, there was a social study that asked people whether they would want to have the perfect life if it meant it was part of a simulation. In the end, the majority of those surveyed say they'd rather have the real world with all its ups and downs than have something that was perfect all the time. I think it just speaks to how humanity will try and break free no matter what. Again, going back to the real world, it's crap, absolutely crap, but people are driven to go somewhere worse from the Matrix because at least there's free will. Now, Smith says that humanity's like a virus, which becomes ironic in the sequels as he transforms into one. We also have the idea that he's just a reflection of the heroes here too. Just like them, he wants to escape the Matrix, but he's unable to. This sets the character on a path to eventually leave it through Bane. At this point, he also takes off his glasses. This gives him a much more human side, as we're now seeing his eyes and catching more of his expression. The other agents never remove their glasses, ever, and it keeps the idea that they're just soulless machines. The machines themselves have altered their appearances to look as far away from the humans as possible. Come the Animatrix though, we learn initially they did look humanoid, and the third film has their god taking the form of a baby. Smith truly relates to the humans here, but because he's on the opposite side, he has to pursue them. A Tank lays out the choice that they have here. If they keep Morpheus alive, his mind will be hacked and Zion will be wiped out. The other choice is to pull the plug and save the last city of humanity. However, due to the talk with the Oracle, Neo wants to go in.
I'm not the one, Trinity. I'm just another guy.
No, Neo, that's not true. It can't be true.
As we know, Trinity knows he's the one because she loves him, and it's such a good line on multiple watches. Great scene overall, and I love when he wants to go in alone and Trinity says,
Let me tell you what I believe. And since I am the ranking officer on this ship, if you don't like it, I believe you can go to hell.
Let's go!
Guns. Lots of guns.
Now at this point, Neo and Trinity enter the Matrix, but before that they hit the construct and load up some guns. I love this because it's basically a loading lobby with presets and character loadouts being akin to something like this. They have so many guns, and Neo ends up throwing his away and pulling out unused ones because it's easier than reloading. Now, according to IMDb trivia, this is a nod to the Flintlock era in which bandits were known to carry several of the same guns, as it was quicker moving to a new one over just reloading. Walking in and setting off the metal detectors, Neo starts instantly blasting. Feel kinda bad for old Podge, the security guard here, because he's just showed up to work and got mowed down. Either way though, these fucks gotta go because they're all potential agents. Now Playing pointed out, it's an us versus them mentality, and I really think people who feel put off by this scene, they also have valid points too. The lobby is also a big comment on corporations, I feel, because it looks like a very corporate environment. This scene is about bringing down the system, and yeah, lots going on with it. Now, the system is kind of wild when you think about it, and now Playing also brought up in their breakdown something I'd never considered about how the world works. You have figures like Che Guevara who opposed the system, and nowadays his face gets sold on t-shirts for money as part of that system. The Matrix even feels like it's a movie about rebellion, but now we look and see that it's just getting turned into more corporate slop with more sequels planned. I also wondered if the score here was a little nod to Terminator. We basically have people that are killing machines walking through wearing sunglasses, and this film of course took a lot of inspiration from Cameron. Now behind the scenes, the guns were actually plastic lightweight replicas which were purposely made by John Bowering so they were easier to carry. When you're doing flips and running up walls, they kind of need to be as light as possible, so the weapons had to reflect that. Echoing several moments from Ghost in the Shell, this was said to be a tribute to that movie because it heavily inspired the film. Taking 10 days to film, the only CGI applied to the scene was to remove the wires. Done practically, that also meant it was a bit of a nightmare. Every column and wall took between 6 to 8 hours to reset, so for time and money it was imperative they got as much done on the first try. Everything was really fragile as well, which we see in the final shot of the scene. We get a moment that's basically just a shot of the lobby, and then a part of one of the pillars falls off. This happened purely by accident, but the Wachowskis left it in for comedic effect. However, the scene is incredible, and for this breakdown, I just had to close the laptop, sit there, and take it in. Watching Neo run in slow-mo and all the columns exploding around him, it's some crazy shit. In the lead up to this, Trinity says no one's done anything like this before, and it definitely feels like that in the movie. Also, again, treat yourself to the 4K if you haven't, as it's got an amazing Dolby Atmos track on it that just bangs your big surround setup if you've got one. But treat yourself because it looks great anyway. Now, before going up in the elevator shaft, Neo says,
"There is no spoon."
referring to how the kid told him he'd have to bend himself rather than the spoon. This is something we see him do literally in the next scene as he bends out the way of the bullets rather than trying to stop them. They also detonate some explosives which sets the lobby on fire. We talked about the Shining references before, and I did wonder if this was a nod to the river of blood that came from the elevator. We then get that badass dodge this moment which segues into the helicopter minigun scene. I love how the water drips out the shattered windows and also on the walls. Coming from the sprinklers, it once more creates the idea of the code. Morpheus has to wake up and free himself from the chains, symbolically building off the back of the strength it took to escape the Matrix. You might notice that Smith shoots at his legs as well, and this is because they still need him alive for the codes. They then fly across the city before having to bail out because Smith shot the fuel reserves. Taking 6 months to plan, this entire sequence had so much attention to detail going on with it. Even researching the kind of glass they used to get a ripple like that was something they heavily looked into. They also built a quarter scale replica of the building, and it just adds to the effect. Making it to the train station, we then get a big battle between Smith and Neo. He takes over a homeless person, and it's kind of crazy thinking that everyone's really just in these pods side by side, but we still have these structures that put some above others. Smith taking over him also shows complete disregard, and to him, people are just there to control. Destroying the phone, Trinity is unable to go back, and though Neo could run, he's beginning to believe. Now, I love how this is all shot like a western. We get a moment where we're focused on the pair's hands, and even a newspaper blowing like it's tumbleweed. The pair count each other's bullets as well, and move in similar ways, with them basically being a perfect match for each other. There's such a good sort of gag at the end of this as well, as we have the fight going on so long. Neo wins, he finally wins, and then Smith just steps off the train after taking over someone else. It's just, yeah, just like, oh, fuck's sake. However, it kind of shows that Neo's using the Matrix against the machines, and sets up how it's gonna be on his side rather than the agents. Racing through the streets, we then get such a frantic chase. Smith takes over someone, and I love the comedic pointing bit as Weaving stands in the street before turning around. Running through a room, we also see a TV playing the TV show The Prisoner. As you can guess, well, this show was about a prisoner. What made it unique though is that it was centered around a British agent who woke up to find himself in a recreation of his home. Known as The Village, this was a simulation of where he came from, with people living their lives peacefully, accepting where they were. However, the prisoner was obsessed with escaping, and it's such a cool Easter egg to add into the movie. Apparently, Christopher Nolan is working on a version of it as we speak, which I also can't wait to see. If you're from the future, let me know below in the comments if it was good. Now at this point, Neo gets to room 303 where he's shot and killed by Agent Smith. If you pay attention to the bullets as they come out the gun, you can also see their blanks, which is obviously due to safety reasons. All hope seems lost though, but it's Trinity's kiss that brings Neo back. It's akin to Sleeping Beauty, with the power of love being what awakens him. This is a gender flip on that classic imagery, with Trinity Trinity's first conversation being around how she kind of challenged gender expectations.
I just thought, you were a guy.
Most guys do.
And this is the final time he wakes up in the movie, and this time he's the one. Now he no longer has to dodge bullets, and he can see the entire code. God mode activated. I love the attention to detail as we also cut to him blocking Smith as well. You can see due to the markings on the wall behind them, all the ones from the beginning of the movie, which shows this is the room where Trinity was. At this point, he then flies inside Smith before breaking him apart. Symbolically, this is what he's going to do to the program as a whole now. He has entered it and will alter the Matrix in ways that will eventually bring it crashing down. Now, this was the place we saw Trinity first experience fear, and now see the fear reflected in the agents. I love the hand motion to hold them back, and yeah, lots of subtext going on. Escaping, they managed to blast the EMP and take out the Sentinels, bringing this insane scene finally to an end. If you slow this scene down as well and check out what Trinity's doing, you can see her yank the plug out the back of Neo's head. It's a pure act of faith, as this could kill him if timed incorrectly. However, it's saving him from the EMP and is such a cool detail to have happen in this moment. I also love how this climax is basically just one non-stop action scene as soon as they enter the lobby, and the last half hour, it's absolutely incredible. Echoing the beginning, we then cut to the Trace program, only this time it fails to run. This shows the date as September 18th, 1999, which brought the ending close to the time of the movie's release. The Matrix cannot trace, hold or contain Neo, and he leaves them with a choice.
Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
This is the perfect way to end the movie, as the entire film has been about choice. Neo had to choose to bail on his job and the structures it created. He had to choose the pill, and he had to choose to be the one. Even the name Choi and his girlfriend de jour means choice of the day in French. Choices are everywhere, with Neo constantly choosing to go towards his destiny. Now he is leaving the choice up to the machines, and we see as he flies into the air. Rage Against the Machine blasts away in the background, with the band's name of course being like what Neo's doing, Captain Obvious. Now interestingly, their music would be used at the end of Reloaded, but it wouldn't be used for Revolution. This is because humanity isn't raging against the machines, but it's something I think we all do at some point. That was very much the mood at the time, and you could see these ideas reflected in other films. Truman Show had us questioning whether our lives were real or not, Fight Club had us thinking about materialism and New Age philosophies. Dark City, Existence, these were all incredible films that touched perfectly on the zeitgeist. However, I think The Matrix just brought all those ideas together and put it in a film that's not only a philosophical mindfuck, but it's also an incredible action movie as well. It hit at the exact right time and built brilliantly off what had come before. William Gibson, aka the author of Neuromancer, he said they had drawn a lot from his existing cyberpunk. However, he also said they were relying on exactly the creative cultural osmosis that he had relied upon in his own writing. I think it sums it up perfectly, and how everything before was kind of just a building block to get us to this moment. Hope you've enjoyed us going back through it, and we're going to be tackling Reloaded very soon. If you want to get early access to that breakdown, then have a little gander over at our membership program right below the video. For just 99 cents a month, you can get early access to our classic movie breakdowns, and we try and have at least 3 early videos a week for you guys to enjoy. Huge thank you to everyone who's joined us so far, and it means we can just focus on these big in-depth videos rather than doing daily news segments that they're probably going to be outdated in a week, but this video is forever. Now, if you want to get some Heavy Spoilers merch as well, we've also got our t-shirt line located just below the video. That will let you pick up all kinds of tops like our Thieves Time one, House of Dragons stuff, Marvel tees, The Boys, and a lot more. We drop new designs on there all the time too, so definitely keep an eye out for them. Now, if you want something else to watch, we've got our ultimate breakdown of the original Star Wars trilogy on screen right now. Carrie-Anne Moss is currently starring in The Acolyte, and if you're watching that, then definitely check out our tread back through the original saga. With that out of the way, huge thank you for sticking through this video. I've been your host Paul. I'll see you next time. Take care. Peace.
I don't know, yo. Kind of cringy at the end. Those plugins and this and that. And I don't know if you heard any of those movie reviews, but the Acolyte or whatever, weak sauce, you know, and it's a shame for Carrie-Anne Moss, right? And apparently she got killed off early on. So whatever. I haven't even seen it. I don't even care. I don't even dabble into this, overly trivial crap that, what does it fucking really matter in the end? Like, yeah, you noticed, the majority of what I've showcased regarding these, Matrix breakdowns was, the philosophical and allegorical and truthful messages being conveyed throughout the whole entire thing. Trilogy, quadrilogy, and all that stuff. Yet, I still find it pretty interesting to see all these other things that, the Easter eggs or whatever the hell, or what hidden eggs. I don't even see. I've been so out of touch with this stuff, and it is what it is. It doesn't mean I'm better or think I'm more clever or whatever the fuck. It's just, for me, it's just, I don't occupy my mind with those types of things that don't, what does it really mean in the end? Oh, you notice there's a certain, thing that correlates to something that, it's just, it's a pop culture reference. It's not going to better your life. It's not going to help us towards whatever. Yes, it's interesting and whatever. It adds to this whole lexicon or zeitgeist, but when you're truly awakened and activated like Neo, you got a lot more other important shit to fucking think about and worry about and be focused on. And I've been focused on a lot of stuff, and unfortunately I totally botched tonight. I was actually supposed to do a live stream, not even at this time, but more towards the evening with Zaralath Immortal. And I was really looking forward to this. He put out a really cool 3-hour breakdown, and we're gonna do that tomorrow. He's been, cool with me. He didn't, bust my chops about, the mix up or whatever. But to let y'all know, because I'm planning out, I'm not just gonna show his video, but I'm gonna have him on, and we're gonna break down things even more. And because I wanted to encourage him to hey man, anything you left out or wanted to reiterate, that'd be fucking great, so why not? Let's keep it rolling. I'm down to speak with more people, have more people on, cross-pollinate, and so and yeah, things like this is I don't mind showcasing things that are out of the echo chambers of what I'm usually delving in, because we have to reach out to these types of crowds to we keep saying oh people got to wake up and this and that, but how is that going to work if we're just preaching to the choir the whole time? So yeah, that's why you kind of saw me a month or two ago. I was on some live stream and this and that, a call-in show. It was cool. It wasn't even that awkward. I felt pretty in my element. And the reason why, even if, it's just, you can feel the audience not feeling me, or even the host kind of whoa, this guy's mystical or whatever, and not understanding, or what you're saying is going over their head. That doesn't mind. I'm not that bothered by it. Yeah, I feel kind of disappointed that man, I was hoping that people would, be resonating with this, or be more open to it, or be feeling it more, right? But it's not a whole lot of skin off my back, because I know what the fuck I'm talking about is pretty legit and aligned to natural law and the divine, and objective morality and shit. So anyways, back to this showcasing. I wrote some notes. We're gonna get into that real quick, because he brought up some things that it did correlate or touch on some of the other stuff that's been mentioned before, and it's not like he got every single thing 100% right, and that's fine, especially on the levels of just understand. And it's just things like mentioning the Acolyte and having these little insert ads and so that you just understand right then and there kind of where their level of consciousness is at. Unfortunately, their heads are, this deep into fucking, pop culture. That doesn't, and you know what that means to me? It means, they're spending that much time on the pop culture stuff and very little time to, the truthful matters of things so we can get our fucking act right type of shit, People think they can, catch up on that with their, quick little TikTok videos, get the cliff notes, while bypassing the details that you need to fucking fully understand and get your grammar down right to get that full understanding. So you have that fucking rhetoric to speak it properly. And I'm just doing this. I'm not reading from a script like these people are. You know what I mean? And, it's not a bad thing to do. I don't mind people coming refined and, defined, like double meaning in a second, while, writing a script out, like folks like Mari West does that all the time. She has a wonderful text that she writes out for her episodes. I'm not against that at all. But now some of these YouTubers, it's like they have to cut in every little couple seconds to edit out the little stutter or whatever the fucker. Because why? They're worried about losing their, goldfish attention span fans, whatever the fuck. Anyways, not to get into that, but, the double meaning with the definition was that, this guy that was doing the...
Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host.
Your host, Paul?
It's Paul.
No, it's also definition. I've seen this guy battle rap a couple times years ago. Funny shit. I used to be into battle rap. I used to be into slam poetry. I went to open mics. It was a variety show. It was really cool. And even though I'm not the biggest fan of battle rap, I still respect it as that art form, and especially in the sense of catharsis and people having that outlet to ventilate their fucking, whatever you can call it, hatred, negative vibes, whatever the fuck. It still serves a decent purpose, and to have that outlet in a healthy way is cool. It's better than folks, causing havoc with other folks in other means that are beyond just verbal, right? So yeah, so what's up with this Neo Smith conundrum? We're gonna keep coming back to that because it's quite an interesting thing, and it seemed to be really just activated when Neo like dove into him at the end of the movie and all this stuff, and like Smith was free. And it's really interesting. He mentioned in the beginning, so the movie script was like 600 pages or something like that. And I'm curious as to, and it might be mentioned, I don't know why I'm trying to waste time with this, but just, for the sake of it, because it's on my mind. Yeah, 600 pages is quite a lot for a movie or two movies, I guess, or even three, possibly. I mean, think about the Tolkien books, Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. And yeah, they stretched out that Hobbit movie too much, but anyways, I'm just curious as to how far they mind mapped every single thing, from beginning to end, from the first movie of The Matrix to the third one, or even the fourth, which, I don't think they had that considered in 1998, 99 when it came out, before, prior, whatever. But yeah, that was during the time where technology was really starting to catch that momentum into the this like technological quickening, as I like to call it. Like the and with the Matrix 4 kind of based in San Francisco, it seems, San Francisco, where I was born in, suffered a big ass fucking techie takeover, if you will. And it sucks. You have all this, smart everything now, smart refrigerators, whatever the fuck. And you break down that acronym, and it's just, like it's Big Brother on fucking steroids or whatever the fuck. So yeah, it just sucks that, fanboys and girls that are down with the Matrix and stuff, they're still supporting Big Brother in a lot of ways. I got a good connect on the Ganj. He's got it going on. It's splifferific, but I mix it with tobacco. It keeps me just really functionable, I guess. Like I'm not really. I like it more for the taste at this point in my life than the actual like high feeling and this and that. And for me, it's like just the act of smoking is. It's just that it's breath work in a sense, and for me, in my templating, I have a lot of fire and air elements, and so it is what it is, right? So, anyways, so in between the Matrix trilogy and the fourth one, you see the squeegee in fuck. I'm not gonna pull up the video again, but I don't know if you guys noticed that, but in the first Matrix movie, when Neo's still like Mr. Anderson and he's getting called into the office to talk to his boss and like, oh, you're in trouble type of thing, and he's thinking about breaking away and feeling the oppression from the authority in a sense. Yeah, you see like the window washer squeegee person coming through, making that window clearer, and that was a big motif in the fourth movie with Bugs, who was that was her job in the Matrix, was a window washer on these skyscrapers. And if you take it to symbolic terms, I guess, what are windows? We talk about eyes, the windows to the soul, right? And so in those moments when, they're wiping the window clean and they're trying to like clear their conscious of certain things, I thought that was really interesting. And I did not hear anyone mention that before. So that just came to mind. It was something that I wrote down. So yeah, I'm down with those clear soul forces, if you know what I mean. I'm sure you guys are too. So anyways, yeah, another common motif with Neo in the Matrix, or Mr. Anderson, was him, waking up, in the beginning of certain acts, or in the beginnings of certain movies. And I noticed in one frame he woke up to the time of, and he made a funny reference of 9:18, and he's like, "Why'd you set your alarm at that time when it's already late?" So you're waking up late as if you're surprised when you said the time at that time. But anyways, are we really trapped in time, like infinite, infinity? Like finite is not necessarily eternal. And going to how the dark occultists view the number 9 in numerology, they see it as kind of like this trapped in this forever lasting loop. And 9:18, well, you have 9, 1 and 8, that's 9. So like it's like a double trap in a sense. So I found that interesting, especially when Neo is living a double life and you apply just like the duality of that, another common thread of the whole movie, so things to consider, as well as, yeah, I liked how they mentioned, they brought a lot of interesting things to the table. And I like this format of where, they're throwing in a shitload of media and pop culture, even though I kind of bash on it a little bit because I feel like people get sucked into it too much. And like, I've lived in places like San Diego in California where it's like, this is all people fucking know and care about or want to talk about in public, at parties, or whatever the fuck. And so that's always been something I've not been a fan of since I was, like 22 years old. So anyways, let the story be told. And that's a little bit before I went down some rabbit holes. And that was a cool reference they made in regards to, Alice in Wonderland, Follow the White Rabbit. But also they took it further with sliding down the reference of, when Neo got unplugged and you forget about these things sometimes, right? I haven't watched the movie in a while, but he gets unplugged and then he like shoots down these tubes, right? And that could be symbolic of him, going down the rabbit hole because he took the red pill, right? So, he's moving towards, reality, the real truthful reality of things, which is, shipped by the Nebuchadnezzar, who, and all that jazz. So anyways, and those biblical references, of course, everyone knows that. I'm not going to get into that because I'm more interested in those Kubrick connections. Stanley Kubrick, the director, famous, movie producer of, things like The Shining, Space Odyssey 2001. Anyways, I'm thinking of Spliff Odyssey 2001 with that last comment, and that's a really cool song actually by Thievery Corporation. Spliff Odyssey. Anyways, it's pretty interesting. So with the Kubrick, they mentioned with the Matrix, that the White Room when there was the simulation in Matrix. Sorry, Morpheus is, trying to break down the Matrix, explaining all that with Neo. And the other one that caught my a lot more towards the end was when Neo and Trinity were at that building for the rescue mission to save Morpheus, and they blew up the building, and they're in the elevator they dropped a bomb, and you see that slow-mo, and it's kind of like it's just like lava oozing out of the thing. Some really cool special effects, and he threw in a reference like, hey, that kind of reminds us of in the movie The Shining, where there's that slow-mo of one of those hallucination moments where there's like blood gushing out of a big ass doorway type of thing. So that was just interesting, and it just makes you think like, damn, like what were these producers on, the Wachowskis and all this stuff. And so anyways, and what were their thoughts about 9/11 exactly? Because they reference that, and you can see even in the Fallen World, real life, New York, they show that even the towers were still there, although kind of crumbly and this and that. And I forget what he said, but it's just one of those things where the way they talk about these things, you just know they just haven't done their fucking homework. I mean, this guy's British. Has he ever heard of David Icke type of thing? Or even if he did he look into his material, or did he just hear in the public domain that, oh, David Icke's talking about reptiles, and so he's just like, that's all he knows about David Icke, as if he didn't do umpteen fucking 8-hour marathon live shows. Anyone sit through any of those back in the day, like a dozen years ago? Things to consider. But anyways, and it's not like he's got it all figured out. No one fucking does. It doesn't matter. But he is an agent of change and waking people up. I mean, how many books has he written? Anyways, so the day and age where it's, you see me, I'm wearing a tank top. It's getting hot out there, huh? It's almost 30 degrees Celsius today, and it was overcast. People are just easily convinced, oh, global warming and all this stuff. Climate change. They don't understand climate hacking, geoengineering, ionospheric heating, HARP, NextRad, even, other technology, cloud seeding. That's all they fucking know now, except for fucking ice crystals or some shit, So the reason I bring that up is because, in the whole premise and reason why the Matrix even fucking happened is because the machines won due to the fact that humanity thought they could beat them by blocking out the sun, by, fucking up the environment. As if, they completely forgot that we're all a symbiotic life force in this, realm. And it doesn't matter whatever fucking shape you want to consider it or think it is or done research on. Because, what really matters in the end is your connection to Mother Nature and natural law and being fucking aligned like your life fucking depends on it. So what the fuck, yo? I swear, like, people think, it's some kind of religion. No, this is the fucking science of life. This is how creation fucking operates 24 fucking 7, whether you fucking like it or not, whether you want to do the work or not, it's fucking happening. And that's just karma, Are you applying that to your dharma? Shit. Watch out, because nature can really harm you. But anyways, not like it really wants to, because the universe, would rather be on your side. So take heed to that and, enjoy the ride, I guess. Like you fucking mean it, and use these hands like they're fucking magic, because they are, as well as our voices, right? Abracadabra, mother lovers. Are you the one who's activated that Neo Cortex? Like, don't get ahead of yourself. Don't be talking about that third eye shit. If you ain't got the first eye lit in that triune brain, tightly knit, balanced, you know what I mean? Legit. Anyways. So the one. This was really interesting. I didn't really hear this before. As far as, the idea that they kind of created this, program of the one as a code or a test to identify the anomaly easier. And so maybe that's why they set up the Oracle or whatever and this and that. Even though, yeah, maybe she had, some, I wouldn't call it empathy, because it's still a computer program that's not holistic. It doesn't have intelligence, right? It doesn't have a soul. But maybe, she had considerations for the human race. And so she threw Neo a cookie, like, looky. Was that a alien love bite or a Cupid love dart, if you will? Anyways, yeah, I just found it interesting of so how much of this simulation is controlled? It just, raises that question in regards to, this whole, the totality of the program of the one Matrix, whatever. So yo, how about Janoe 77? What's up? I don't know if I saw your last comment in the last Matrix video was thanking you for the videos and mixes. Yeah, man, I did see that. I appreciate it. I did respond to that, right? I'm pretty sure I did, at least. Man, yeah, I really appreciate you playing that and sharing that. Like, honestly, straight up, yeah, that's really just all I ask, and it's quite simple and easy, and yeah, I know not all my stuff is the most pleasing, but yeah, anything that helps out. And yeah, for me, it's really not about me personally. It's just about the messages and truthfulness and all that goodness from those music mixes and all these things and all that. So, okay. Geez, yeah, that could have been the one video where my live stream got cut off, like the internet or whatever. Yeah, I think that was that one. Yeah, fuck. Yeah, sorry about that. I was down to continue talking for like another hour after that. And I was talking for like another 5 minutes until I realized, like, hey. Anyways, yeah, much love, yo. Much love, brother. Appreciate that, yo. 77. I love that number too, yo. 77. Mais oui, mec. Cypher. That was an interesting thing he mentioned with Ronald Reagan. And I forgot that so going back to the Matrix, right? And going to the scene where Cypher is talking to Agent Smith, chewing the fat with him, right? Literally. At the end, Smith is like, all right, so it's done, Mr. Reagan, or something like that. And yeah, in this video.
In this video, where
that video, yep. Interesting, that sync, but really? What did you have to say about Reagan exactly? I forgot. What did I write? I said, oh yeah, I don't think he was right when he said that. You got to check and anyways, but as far as like Cypher, yeah, it was interesting, when you watch the movie and, like they build up the suspense quite a lot and it was really well done. Think about, you're in a constant state of fear. You're in fucking survival mode. You're not safe fucking anywhere, not even in the Nebuchadnezzar or even fucking Zion for that matter, because there's like impending doom possibly from there. And especially if you're, venturing out on one of these ships, like you have to duck and hide every which way, from the Sentinels and all this stuff, And the word Sentinel is cool. It reminds me of, those X-Men, right? Which was a cool series back in the day, the animated version in 97. I was, one of those kids kind of eating cereal to that in the morning, or they played in the afternoon. I forget. Either way, it's just, yeah, it was a different era. But yeah, I was programmed too, what it be and what it do, huh? So back to the Matrix and all these suspenseful action scenes and, trying to duck and evade, the agents and all this stuff. And yeah, when they had that deja vu thing happened and they got trapped in that building and they're like, hiding in between the walls of the building. And the one thing that, alerted the agents that they were, in between the walls was, Cypher, because he, coughed or sneezed or whatever. And yeah, I'm thinking more in the movie, looking back, it's like, yeah, you're having hella dust on your face. It would be hard not to sneeze, but, in the end, like that Judas archetype, as he mentioned, throughout the movie, like he would be the one to, sound the alarm or, be that booby trap type of thing or the catalyst for, them to be busted or caught and all that stuff. So yeah, whether, he sneezed on purpose, for them to eventually, well, Morpheus was the only one that got caught because he sacrificed himself, so I thought that was interesting and wanted to share that. On to the next, huh? Yeah, this is interesting. So, fuck. Yeah, I forget where I even wrote that down, but yeah, it's interesting to reiterate the whole thing of like the idea of that whether you're in or outside of the matrix, kind of like in this realm, if you will, we're not necessarily safe anywhere, whether inside or outside, because the control system exists, and the mass mind control exists 24/7. The propaganda machine is pumped in, billions of dollars annually. Big Pharma, Kia, Needlecraft, and all that shit, man. All this stuff, and whether we're inside of that or not, it still has an effect on us, because there's still the collective idea that of the belief in these false authority figures, and all these corrupt corporate entities that people just comply with based on their financial support of, whether they work for them or go shopping or whatever, buy their products of, right? It's quite the conundrum, right? And this is the fucking Gordian knot that I talk about all the time now. Well, not all the time, but quite often. So, Gordian knot is, kind of like the metaphor of this total clusterfuck of entanglement that we're all entrapped in within so many fabrics of society, type of thing. A la The Matrix, right? So, yeah. It's great to be self-sufficient as much as possible, and I highly encourage that. Yet, yeah, it's it'll be interesting to see what we can do with just crushing this shit and building something better in this place, right? So I like this one right here. So with the Oracle, she didn't always predict things, as a lot of people, think that, that's all she stood for. I caught that, he mentioned something to that tune. And it's not to say like he's wrong or people are wrong in that sense, but like if you break down her programming, right? Because she is, a piece of software, she wasn't always there to predict things, and she also was, projecting things and programming things. So for me, like predicting things, it's like you're kind of in the know, but you're not 100% sure, right? Kind of like you're foreseeing things that could or could not. And you can see the good dialect, like this was a well-written movie, the wording was really interesting and correct, and it wasn't dumbed down. It was intelligent. It made you think, and it was, it could be, I don't know, multi-layered, right? Multi-meaning and all these things. But the reason I bring up the whole Oracle thing is because, people have, this idea of, let's think of the Oracle as, something like, I was going to say the Joe Rogan podcast or something like that, but no, not even close. But, it's not to equate her and her archetype to that. It's more, all right. So what I really wanted to mention is that, like, it's not her archetype that is the same as, the mainstream media or the news channel, if you will. Where, things like The Simpsons, the classic one that I bring up, with, people will say, oh, they predictive programming because, and yeah, they had the 9/11 reference, like a lot of other things. But, if these people were referencing that and they're in the know, and everyone is, pointing to the same like date, how are they, just like predicting or guessing, right? It just seems like they're projecting and programming these things into the, public consciousness. Anyways, because, this is part of the dark occult rituals of their perverted ways of, thinking that they can evade karma by, showing people what they're going to do to them, by in the sense of violating their rights and in killing people or whatever, having this, satanic ritual of the 9/11 false flag shit, whatever. And the fact that, like, all right, we threw that out into we seeded those ideas. We told you, through, by obscure means through the media. We didn't tell you directly, but, in their minds, it's like, that's good enough. And no one, not enough people, said anything to say no. So in their minds, it's like humanity complied to their, desire to cause harm to us. Sick, twisted shit. Yeah, that's the inversions and perversions of natural law. So what the fuck? We need to do something about it in so many different ways, for the rest of our days. Like, this is a marathon. It ain't no fucking, one-off or, watch a couple videos and yeah, we're good to go now. And like, oh, I did my shadow work and this and that. Like, you might have crossed some thresholds and that's great, but like, there's still just more levels to do these things in this path work. But anyways, let me know what you thought about this video, because I'm curious, as someone who's, been dabbling in a lot of different styles of making videos myself. You see me out in nature or, out on the beach, or I live on the coast of the Mediterranean. It's a beautiful place. I want to show you guys that. I also want to be able to show you more, screenshots or things like that if I want to do more in-depth analysis and that kind of stuff. So, doing videos like what, if you guys were watching the whole thing or even a little bit of it, y'all know the style, right? And that's kind of what I consider like the YouTuber style. And it's pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. I dig it. It keeps people engaged. It's a little too much. You have, these, cutting in, cutting out all the time, like, do we need that really? Like, but, I mean, that's just, with the one-on-one camera to the speaker, but, all the cut-ins of, the pop culture references and obviously the main material that they're speaking about and having those visual references. I mean, it's cool. I find that helpful, and yeah, it keeps people attentive to, what people are talking about. Sometimes it can take away from it, especially if you cut away and have to make all these reference jokes, kind of like who is it? Like Family Guy and that kind of stuff. It's just like overkill, right? But anyways, I'm not trying to overkill this live stream. I just want to make it up to 2 hours. We're at 152, but no, I ain't trying to, make a big deal about it. So yeah, let me know what's good, and if you guys even like my style of making videos and how it matches up to other people. It's not a competition at all. For me, it's just, if you ever hear me talking negative about these people, it's just because I see sometimes they're sellouts. They, can be a little cringy too much. There's, a lot of them are still under spells of the idiot box or pop culture or, you know, the other umpteen thousand fucking programs and programming that is out there, right? You know, so yeah, anyways. I mean, yeah, people want to, you know, sell out or whatever, and oh, we got my so and so sponsored my video. Okay. You couldn't just make a separate video about that and have it like a, you know, commercial? Like, how much you getting paid for this stuff, you know? Honestly, like, he did better than most as far as, you know, just sliding a couple things in here and there. And I saw his little sly way of, you know, subscribing to that, you know, and all this stuff. And I'm just like, why sometimes? Yeah, get your fucking kicks in, you know, try to get folks involved, but fuck, yeah. I don't know. It's kind of cringe to me sometimes. Anyways, what I will say is that we got that nattylawwebsite.com. I will be producing some t-shirts in the future really, really soon. And yeah, this is a great place for people to learn, to stay aligned to the divine, and yeah, understand, you know, how, in contrast, when you learn, you know, the proper way of natural law and objective morality, how they've been used against us, how they've been inverted and perverted. So yeah, Theo Lukes and myself have put this website together. It's really cool. Yeah, what else can I say? Thanks for hanging out with me today, and we'll be back for another round. I got Zeralath Immortal coming through tomorrow, and it's gonna be something cool. And also, if you guys are around 9 o'clock Eastern, especially if you speak French, or even if you're interested, there's gonna be a really cool roundtable on the Libercast. Fred Gongrath is going to be hosting it, and I'll be roasting it. No, just kidding. Roasting the bullshit going on in the world, à la française, all day, because that's how we parlay, don't you know? And it's not necessarily a partay. And I'm not trying to rain on anyone else's, really, but at the same time, like, what the fuck is it going to give? Because we still see the Matrix being constructed and, like, even augmented at this point, you know? Like, how much of the coding are you actually able to see with your third eye, with your first eye, even with your, you know, two eyes, you know, whatever, even if you don't have 20/20 fucking vision, you know? Like, what are we doing? So, yeah, solution-wise, because I like to, you know, end things on a positive note. Yeah, heart-based intelligence. For any problem out there, we can find solutions for these things. We can, you know, take more sovereign action within our own immediate surroundings, right? Our household. How are we managing just everyday simple things? Even our money, even our time, even our attention, our sleep, our diet, and all this stuff. Our gardens, you know, are we actually growing food? That kind of stuff. Are we growing proper holistic connections with other people, whether in person or in whatever kind of network or meetups you guys got, so things can just, yeah, evolve in a positive momentum, right? And not comply with all the motherfucking bullshit of gouvernare de merde, c'est putain de gouvernement de saloperie, connasserie, you know, anyways. much love. And yeah, at the same time, like, yeah, I got a great chat with Jim Gale and Leslie Powers on Dissolving the Divide, and he's been talking about this, and he's had success of, you know, flipping the script on people who work in the government to look at things a better way and be like, oh shit, what I'm participating in is not the right way, you know? So we don't always have to speak about and treat these people like they're just fucking robots. In the end, we're all fucking people. You know, what comprises of the government? People, you know? They might be, you know, imbalanced in certain paradigms in the mind, or, you know, left or right hemisphere, or the Democrats or the Republican schmublicans, whatever, you know, but in the end, can we not try to find some way to light that spark up in their heart for them to actualize and realize, you know, what they're partaking is not what they thought, or, you know, all that stuff, and able to either exit out of that shit, or, you know, be an agent of dismantling that shit from within. Things to consider. Yo, Rasta in the chat, what's cracking, yo? I'm sorry, I'm about to peace out. It's been fun, but yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to end things on. Last live stream, if you guys like hip hop, and it's on my channel anyways, from 2 years ago, Maneuvering Through the Matrix. It's about a 2-hour long set of really cool hip hop, and I laced a shitload of Matrix quotes over that, and some other clever endeavors to try to keep folks living with their hearts light as a feather, no matter the weather. And yeah, word up to Brandon Spencer, where we did a chat about that, but also that cool cat is doing a live stream 24/7 right now. You can check that out. Rasta Spence, by the way, that's his handle, or just Brandon Spencer. Fuck, do I have his thing still? Come on, brother man. Yes, yeah. All right, you can check this guy out. He's with the One Great Work Warriors as well, and yeah, live stream on Twitch 24/7. Pumping that truth all day long as I sing my song. But if you're living by natural law, you can't go wrong, huh? And yeah, he definitely inspired me to just, yeah, kind of take and run with the whole, hey, you got that natural law type of thing. So yeah, where it's a trick question, because if you understood, it's always from the heart from the start. And you know, anyways, much love out there, and yeah, thanks again for watching and tuning in. This was a pretty cool video, I must say. You know, like I wish I could do video editing like this, but you know, I guarantee you he's got a whole team of cats. Fuck, what was the name of the
Breaking Down the Matrix.
Break it down, man. Heavy spoilers. That's right. Yeah, respects to them. And by the way, yes, I swear, this guy, I'm like 99% convinced he was a battle rapper by the name of Definition. And yeah, pretty funny guy, pretty witty. You know, you could study your esoteric information a little bit more, but you know, you brought some really cool stuff to the table, and my hat's off to you as a fellow video editor, maker, producer, whatever the fuck, that, you know, that is some long ass, tedious, meticulous editing to, you know, make all those cuts in and out, and all those references that you made in the script that you wrote to, you know, read it. Bravo. So cheers. And yeah, thanks again for everyone else that I've been showcasing, I got Zeralath Immortal on deck tomorrow. Again, and yeah, unfortunately, I was supposed to go down tonight. It is my fault. I had something planned already a couple days ago with the Libercast. And that's going to be in French. If anyone's interested, the Libercast, 9 o'clock Eastern time tonight, which is 3 o'clock my time in the morning. C'est la vie. But anyways, and then I'm going to showcase Mario West and Glenn Tram a couple times, I think. I might even do just a whole day marathon with that. We'll see. But it's like a three video part series of, it's like 5 hours long. That might be too much. And I'm going a little too hard these days, but right? Yeah, we stay connected. You know, the universe has got our backs, and that's a fact. You know, living proof, But yeah, much respects, Miles Torres. Thank you so much, brother, and everyone else watching. Here, Laba Janoi 77 again, and we'll check y'all later, my friends. Tomorrow.